Here's a name that's sure to send a chill down your spine. Mad Catz. I'm getting a mighty strong feeling that more than a few of you don't know what Mad Catz is. Well, I can't say I blame you. After their height of relevance in the 2000s, they quickly fell into obscurity and were left behind by a gaming industry that was all too happy to forget about them. But I never forgot. How could I? They ruined video games, not only for me, but for countless others as well, in a deeply personal way. Now yes, some of you might not know them or why my hatred for them burns brighter than a pizza oven on the surface of the sun, but soon, you will. Today, we set out on a kaleidoscopic adventure spanning a sea of systems decades deep. A journey no explorer in their right mind should commence. A quest to track down and purchase every possible Mad Catz controller we can. And by the end of this, I promise you, you're gonna discover why we all feared the Mad Catz. Mad Catz was a third-party video game peripheral company that supplied gamers in the 90s and 2000s with controllers, and also with peripherals. Like this. Seems pretty harmless, right? No, not harmless. Far from it. They were a ferocious feline crouching in wait, biding time to silently strike video game retail jungles across the country. Allow me to paint a picture for you. It's 1997. Your friend calls you up on your family's landline phone and says,
"You have to come over right now. My mom just let me rent Mario Kart 64 from Blockbuster."
You hang up the phone and rush out the door, excited to get in on some head-to-head karting action. Your friend welcomes you into their home and guides you to the hallowed sanctuary of the family room television. Powered on, the warm, radiant glow of a CRT illuminates the den. Your friend inserts the game in the console and flicks the power switch. They pick up their trusty controller, the one bundled with the console. But then, your friend turns to you and speaks these exact words.
You can play with this controller.
You get into the game, but something is amiss. Attempting as best you can to provide some challenge to your companion, but it's futile. They kick your butt from block fort to skyscraper. They claim victory. Again and again. Any game, any genre, any stage, it didn't matter. You were powerless. You soon realize it wasn't you who was failing. It was that cursed controller they saddled you with. It was staring at you up from your trembling hands. That logo, the Mad Catz slash of doom. Oh, did you think that was fiction? That kid visiting their friend? That was me! I didn't have a Nintendo 64 as a child. This low-rate controller handoff was a recurring reality I had to endure, and it always seemed to be Mad Catz. Always! Personally, I didn't have experience with the brand before these haunting gaming sessions, but let me tell ya, I sure as heck learned to hate them mighty quick. This was common all over, not just for me. First players never had problems playing. They used a controller ordained by Nintendo as the righteous choice. Second players across the world, though, got sat with revolting contraptions, gamepads that taught us to despise this scarlet scratch. Some of you watching may think I'm being a tad overdramatic. And to you I say, I don't think I'm being dramatic enough. How can I convey just how hateful it was to use these specific gaming products? I figure the only way is to show firsthand how inferior Mad Catz quality was, controller after controller. And that's the journey I'm taking you on today. You will see for yourselves how Mad Catz got their tainted reputation. And I will hopefully hold on to my mental faculties as I play more Mad Catz controllers in a row than probably anyone else on the whole planet. Can't believe we bought Mad Catz controllers. I seriously can't. As I prepare myself to run this gauntlet, let's talk a little bit more about third-party controllers. Mad Catz weren't the only company on the block hawking off-brand gaming gear, but they were the name that every kid knew. Mad Catz was everywhere. And folks, I mean everywhere. I've had friends tell me you could find their stuff in grocery stores. Grocery stores, people! Likely next to the kitty litter. Mad Catz had infested the gaming market. Retailers sold their products and people willingly scooped them up. But why? Why the heck were people buying Mad Catz? Well, it's all about the third-party video game accessory market. Pretty much since the rise of the home game console, there have been companies whose entire business model was to make additional controllers and accessories for other companies' game platforms. Like this, the QuickShot Chimera 2, a controller that featured thumbsticks for the NES, an input method totally different from what came bundled with the console. And it works. The joystick offered the player more precision than a standard NES D-pad. Or how about the Hori Mini Pad for the Nintendo 64? A personal favorite of mine. A completely redone design for the original Nintendo 64 that for many gamers improved ergonomics, comfort, and usability. Or this, the Power Pad Tilt by Champ. A player could activate button presses with motion. Sure, it tries to replace simple D-pad inputs with tilt, doesn't work very well, but it's definitely different. Okay, yeah, obviously not every third-party controller was a winner. Some were fun to use and some were shallow gimmicks and some made you want to throw your controller right through the wall. But when they worked, they could enrich the gaming experience beyond what originally came with the system. At least, that's how I remember it. The folks I knew that had these quirky devices didn't think all that negatively about them. Your gameplay prowess might vary using them, but hey, they were trying something different. It was fine. So when they first appeared on store shelves, there was no reason to look at a MadCatz controller any differently than another product. They hadn't scared up a reputation yet. How they kept selling over the years? Well, we'll get into that in good time. But first, we need to see what MadCatz quality was like near the beginning. And that brings us to our very first controller. Many believe MadCatz first pounced onto the scene during the Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and Saturn era. But that's wrong, because they had unleashed products for the SNES and Genesis, like this right here. The MadCatz Control Pad, featuring what I assume to be MadCatz' original logo, and arguably their most interesting logo design. He's one cool looking cat.
That's one mad fine compliment.
At first glance, it looks like nothing special, just a knockoff Genesis gamepad. I expected this to play pretty terribly if it worked at all. But here's the kicker, folks. This thing is solid. I know, I just railed on the company earlier for bad quality products, but I'd be lying to you if I wasn't at least fair about this. It's well built, and despite it being the oldest controller we're going to be looking at today, it feels like a real Genesis controller. The shield-style D-pad is responsive, as are the face buttons, which I was not expecting. Oh, I know, an unbelievable concept. MadCatz, a company synonymous with terrible products, made quality gear at one point. But I tell you non-believers, this here is good. Very, very good. It's also not just a typical Genesis controller. Like many of the third-party controller makers at the time, they tried to set themselves apart from first-party hardware. And to do that, they made use of the ultimate ability 90s gamers craved. Turbo features. These switches at the top, flip them, and bam, rapid fire mode. And that's not all they can do. Set the switch higher to auto, and the controller can make constant button inputs without you touching anything at all. Cruise control for your inputs on the Genesis. What is this? The future? If that wasn't enough, they also included slow motion mode. Yeah, you heard me right. It's simulated by auto rapid firing the start button. You can see it in action here with Sonic the Hedgehog 3's intro. Sonic 3 has a clean pause screen, so it sorta, maybe, kinda looks like slow motion a little. It feels more like the game is stuttering if you ask me, but this might have been helpful to get around the super tricky parts in the game, if your game paused using the start button, that is. Here's something fun. In Sonic 3, if you crouch while turning on the auto rapid fire switch, Sonic will spin dash faster than I've ever heard in my entire life.
You gotta go fast!
I'm shocked that one of their first controllers wasn't bad, so I guess they didn't start out of the gate by wasting our money. But this was only the beginning, because most gamers, they don't think of this fun little Genesis gamepad when they hear MadCatz. No. Our scars are from the generation after that, the rise of 3D gaming. The market shifted at this time in a very specific way, which gave MadCatz the foothold they needed to prey on unsuspecting gamers everywhere. The SNES and NES originally came ready for multiplayer action. It wasn't impossible to find two controllers bundled with a console when you bought it. The following console generation, though, stopped that. An industry-wide trend spread. The Nintendo 64, the Sony PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn. If you wanted any of these super advanced consoles, you were getting one gamepad at launch. One. Sure, there would be occasional special bundles like the N64 Atomic Purple bundle that came with an extra controller, but those were exceptions and introduced much later on. The aftermath of this was a higher number of gamers seeking out extra controller options than in the past, many of which were accustomed to having 2 gamepads. Thus, the massive rise of third-party controllers began. They were a side effect of systems not having multiple bundled controllers for players. You can blame the first party for this one, folks. They caused this unfortunate chain reaction. I've dreaded this moment since we started this video, but here we go. This is an original, unmodified, mint condition, according to its eBay listing, Nintendo 64 Mad Catz controller, a plastic monstrosity that haunted my childhood. The biggest difference between this and an original Nintendo controller, MadCatz changed the direction of the expansion slot. It's supposed to point down from the back of the controller. They decided to have it sticking out of the top for some reason. It just gets in the way of the controller cord when you plug stuff in. I really don't know what they were thinking. I'm sure you're all looking at this and intensely wondering, how broken is that thumbstick gonna be? Well, let's find out. We're gonna play an imported Japanese Nintendo 64 game that was never released for the North American Nintendo 64, Irritating Electric Stick. This game completely relies on the quality of the analog stick your controller is armed with. You gotta pull through an electrified maze under a set time limit, rushing down paths while slowly cutting around corners. You need precision to make this work. Any issue with the analog stick here will be highlighted tenfold. I'm pitting the MadCatz up against an original Nintendo 64 controller, both unmodified and both loosened over years of use. They're close to parity in age, but have roughly the same flaws. To my surprise, the analog stick wasn't a complete fail. It's worse than a real controller, don't get me wrong, you just might not notice it unless you compare them back to back like I did. It was important to equip both controllers with a rumble pack since the violent shake of your controller every time you touch the side of the course and fail is instrumental in the tension this game generates in the player. Not a problem on any official Nintendo 64 controller. The MadCatz though? I quickly discovered that this gamepad doesn't work with the rumble pack. This was really stupid. It's probably incompatible with other accessories as well. This is apparently a known problem. The only remedy you'd have is to buy the advanced gamepad they released a year later to get rumble support. Doesn't help you if you bought this craptastic one. MadCatz might have cheaped out on their expansion port or something, but I really don't know. See this? This is why you're trash. You might think aside from the expansion slot issues, it wasn't all that terrible, but no. There are reasons this bad boy stuck with me all these years. The Z trigger on the back, wobbly and spongy. This might be from age, but the official controller of the same vintage doesn't have this problem. Pushing the shoulder button on the far edges, responsive. However, if you move closer to the center of the controller for each button, they don't move. This is a build problem, not aging hardware. They were built to hinge on corner presses instead of an entire button push. Guess they didn't care. Even the D-pad, which is iconic for Nintendo controllers, was turned into a shield-style design that is both squishy and squeaky at the same time. But most offensive of all, the A and B buttons. Crazy unresponsive. Check out my run in Mario Kart 64 here. You can see me push the button to accelerate, but Mario doesn't move an inch. You've got to really push down hard to get the kart to move. It's about as close to unusable as a face button could get. Oh, it also has the slow-mo and turbo functions like the Genesis gamepad, but the buttons are already so terrible, I really don't care about any extra functions this useless controller may have. Now sure, Nintendo 64 controllers, they're older now. Even Nintendo's first-party releases have their own special problems, especially a well-used analog stick. But I'm not comparing this controller against a brand new one or even a refurbished and cleaned up model. This here is a well-loved, long-used Nintendo 64 controller. It's from the same era and has probably seen more action over the years compared to this MadCatz one. The difference here is all down to build quality. MadCatz showed their hand with this controller, a glimpse into their quality standards. It was the warning shot to gamers everywhere, a message that was loud and clear to anyone who dared play their devices. MadCatz makes mad trash. Just imagine when this thing was new. You brought it home and it got busted after a few plays, if it even worked to begin with. Then, after the Rumble Pack comes out, you discover it doesn't work with it. You couldn't bring it back to the store for a refund. They had your money, and you had a useless controller. Sounds like a scam, doesn't it?
It's not a scam. Now you get to buy another Mad Catz controller. That's 2 controllers for the price of 2.
The company wasn't just making their own cheaper variations of stock console controllers, they were also making specialty gear for simulation racer fans. This is a MadCatz steering wheel for the Nintendo 64. It's got an analog wheel, built-in rumble, and a set of analog pedals for acceleration and brake. I saw this advertised in gaming magazines back in the day. It featured 2 guys stealing a steering wheel straight from a race car during an active competition. The message here? They were dirty thieves! Or probably they were making quality steering wheels that were at least as good as the real thing. Yeah, well, past experiences make me believe that this will be very unlikely, but let's give this thing a whirl anyway. Regardless of what I played, I found that the wheel fails half the time. Sometimes it would break down on the same game the second or third time I played it. If it did happen to work, mid-race, it would lose connection. I don't think I've really seen a disconnect warning with a properly plugged-in wired controller before. So I thought the connection cable might be damaged, but even when I didn't touch anything, you'd still see the warning randomly turn off and on. It's like it's got a poor wireless connection despite it being wired. For brief moments, I did get some titles to work with the analog steering, but in other instances, it seemed to function more like a D-pad. It took sharp turns left and right instantly, and sometimes the controls would lock up in one specific direction. And the issues aren't only with steering. So many aspects of this controller are shoddily built. This little stick shift isn't a stick shift. It's just a pull with C buttons on it. The stick itself is very wobbly. Age? Bad build? Your guess is as good as mine. The controller plug doesn't sit flush against the port on the console like other controllers. It's also insanely hard to properly insert. It seems to get jammed once you plug it up, making it so hard to pull out that I'm afraid I might damage my Nintendo 64. This is an original build quality issue. These ports didn't get bigger or smaller with age. The buttons are squishy and the D-pad pops right in all at once without a central pivot point, which is always a sign of a lack of care. This is totally not the quality that magazine ad was bragging about. The only thing these 2 thieves were stealing was my money from buying this thing. Folks, I gave this sad wheel of doom way too many chances, and it failed on all fronts. The moment I gave up and threw in the towel was when the built-in vibration motor seemed to malfunction and get stuck on earthquake mode. Just sat there, vibrating, without end. This is an incredibly unreliable product. Well, so far, MadCatz Nintendo 64 devices have lived up to their legacy. Poor quality designs with components that do not hold up over time. But they weren't only making inferior N64 products. I found one other relic from this generation, this time for the PlayStation. I couldn't find any regular MadCatz controllers for the console, but this looks like it's going to be even better. This here is the MadCatz Fazor arcade-style light gun. That's the official name. Fazor. You know, like from Star Trek. This one, to my eye, specifically looks like the Type 2 hand phaser used in the first Star Trek movie from 1979. Not that I knew any of that off the cuff or anything. This was originally sold with 2 different controller port adapters, one for the original PlayStation and the other for the Sega Saturn. When I found this, it only came with the PlayStation adapter. I imagine this doubled up on the value of your purchase if you could use it for either system, if you even happened to have both back then. But it also doubled up on MadCatz profits. 1 SKU, 2 console markets. Yeah, I'm thinking that's why they did that. The moment I grabbed this, I was excited to zap my way through one of my all-time favorite light gun games, Point Blank, an absolute arcade classic. I played first with my real Namco gun con, you know, for science. Plays like a dream. Then I switched over to the MadCatz Fazor. It didn't work. this is when I learned something really fun about the Mad Catz Fazor. It's a standard light gun controller compared to Namco's synchronized light gun controller. Each game has to be specifically programmed to work with each style of light gun. Some titles support both, some do not. Most important to me was the fact that my favorite light gun games, like all the ones that were made by Namco, do not work with the Mad Catz Fazor at all. But lucky for me, I have a copy of Die Hard Trilogy 2 Viva Las Vegas, which happens to support both controllers. So how did they compare in a shootout? Well, the GameCON won on every front. Aiming was better and way more accurate. And for some reason, anytime I fired with the Fazor, the screen wobbled. That did not happen with the GameCON. Probably just a standard light gun effect, I guess, so maybe I can't blame MadCatz for that. What I can flag them for is the controller's abhorrent design. It's fine for the world of Star Trek, but not for real-world gaming. They put the buttons in a position that has no spot to rest your hand, so there's no comfortable way to use them. Now, you could hold it like this, and then maybe here and touch the first two buttons on either side, but when you want to get at the start button, you kinda have to use your middle finger. It sucks! Compare that to the GameCON's smart placement of buttons on the barrel, and it's obvious to see how the Fazor is so much worse. I did it! Need a standard light gun? Look for a different model. Something that looks less like Captain Kirk has it strapped to his pants. We're a few controllers deep into our Mad Catz extravaganza, and some of you may be thinking, well, this may have been your experience, Shane, but I never bought a Mad Catz controller. I knew better than that. I was a serious gamer. For some, that could very well be true, but I'm betting a whole bunch of you bought Mad Catz and did not even know it. How is this possible? Mad Catz would supply companies with controllers for them to slap their own branding on, hiding in plain sight. Remember that Sega Genesis controller we had a look at early on? Well, Toys R Us rebranded it with the name High Frequency. That's right, these two controllers are identical. They're both Mad Catz. Did I really need to buy two ancient duplicate controllers just to prove this point? No, but I did.
I was a serious gamer.
Toys R Us used the exact same name to sell Mad Catz Nintendo 64 controllers as well. Check out these pictures taken inside the store from back in the year 2000. All this right here, high-frequency branded controllers. But make no mistake, these plastic imposters are secretly made by the angry kitten people. I can't say for sure how many other brands at the time were actually disguised Mad Catz. There's no depository for this information, but I can say for sure a decade or so later, another piece of camouflage Mad Catz hardware popped up. Rebranded controllers with GameStop. This little wireless GameCube controller might say GameStop on the front, but it's hiding a dirty secret on the back. This means that over the years, some gamers out there were actually playing on Mad Catz devices all along and didn't know it. Dude, you're playing with Mad Catz. All that fun N64 and PlayStation stuff, that was just an appetizer for the main course that is the 6th console generation. If you know Mad Catz, this generation is probably why you know them. Their rise as a controller maker of infamy was during this time. And why? Because of the PlayStation 2. By that gen, Mad Catz refined their strategy. Sell lower quality products for less than the competitors, targeting the larger population of money-conscious consumers out there. Whether you were a kid trying to stretch your allowance as far as you could, or a parent who just didn't know the extra $10 made a difference, there was always someone willing to buy the cheaper off-brand thing. And the PS2's incredible sales brought in a new massive consumer base, potentially looking for affordable accessories for their new favorite console. Just like the previous generation, this one also launched with only one controller in box. Mad Catz bombarded the market with different models of gamepads at this time. It meant big numbers for the company. Heck, the first full year after the PS2 hit shelves, Mad Catz net sales increased by 50%. So yeah, people were buying them. And now, I'm going to look at a few of their PS2 offerings to see if things could have gotten any worse. It's probably gonna get worse. Fun fact, during my MadCatz Safari hunting controllers down, PlayStation 2 gamepads were the most common MadCatz controller I came across. I found 4. Makes sense, right? Like we said, it was the dominant platform of its time. More people were likely to buy one of these knockoffs on that platform. To test all of these out, I decided to play Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. This was one of the first games I played on the PlayStation 2 that made full use of all the advanced pressure-sensitive buttons. The directional pad, the face buttons, and the triggers are all pressure-sensitive, meaning that they can register lighter inputs as well as hard inputs, and the game behaves accordingly. You can see it here with the official PlayStation 2 controller. You can run or walk with the directional pad alone depending on how hard you push down. Looking around in first person is adjusted by pushing the L2 and R2 buttons. Press a little, move a little, and the face buttons are much of the same. But of course, the analog thumbsticks are near essential when playing a game like MGS2, since you can sneak around by softly tilting the stick in full 360-degree freedom, something the D-pad alone cannot do. So clearly, this is a good game to test out these 4 controllers. Let's start off with the MadCatz official Gamepad 200 series, a fully black design with rigid plastic ribs on the side to create the illusion of functional grip. MadCatz really seemed to think people dropped their controllers a lot. They added ribbed grips to practically everything. I didn't have to test this controller very long as I noticed pretty much right away that it has a broken start button. Next up is the MadCatz Dual Force 2 Pro MicroCON. MadCatz controllers are sometimes called the little brother controller because younger siblings typically got stuck with the off-brand controller. I can't imagine what else would have inspired them to make such tiny versions of their controllers, so I personally believe that's why they made the MicroCON line, for younger players' smaller hands. This controller has a working start button. That's an improvement, but it has a broken D-pad. The left direction doesn't work. 2 down, and so far we haven't even moved Snake inside the boat in-game. It's really starting to get soggy from all that rain above deck. Number 3 is the MadCatz RetroCON. It clearly was designed to look more like an original Nintendo Entertainment System controller. Why? I don't know. This design isn't all that comfortable, especially the shoulder buttons at the top. They're super squished together, and instead of them being one on top of the other, they're side by side. Now they're less intuitive to switch between and way less comfortable to use. Despite its smaller look, it has all the functions of a real PS2 controller, pressure sensitivity and rumble included, but the left thumbstick is busted. This is unplayable. It wildly jumps around when you move it in any direction, and if you leave it alone, it automatically moves down. I think you know where this is going. This here is the full-size Dual Force 2 Pro, the larger model of the blue MicroCON with the busted D-pad. And guess what? Every single button seems to work on here. Nope, false alarm. Thumbsticks are garbage. They're way too sensitive. Gingerly nudging the sticks just a little bit instantly sends exaggeratingly heavy movement input, meaning the whole analog feature of these analog thumbsticks gone, making any game that requires precision input, like say aiming a weapon or sneaking around, something Metal Gear Solid is all about, well, it's insanely difficult to complete now, if not impossible. Even if I looked past the busted controls and broken inputs, the pressure-sensitive features of every single one of these controllers kind of felt stiffer and harder to use than my official PlayStation 2 controller. They're basically the same age, and my PS2 controllers have seen a lot of use. I also pulled out one with very loose analog sticks to give the MadCatz a bit of an unfair edge, but even then, the official controller was still far more play-friendly than anything MadCatz offered. To top it off, the MadCatz PS2 memory card I happened to pick up? Totally not working! The PS2 doesn't even register its existence. Just as a point of order, don't ever buy third-party memory cards for systems made during this era, folks. The risk to your game saves isn't worth it. Anything that says MadCatz on it? Avoid. Which I think is becoming the lesson of this video. So that was it. Every single PlayStation 2 controller and accessory was in a broken state. Oh, that reminds me. That's where you belong. In the trash. A pile of controllers, and none of them are playable. But all of my original PlayStation 2 hardware, still working great. The difference? Those third-party gamepads were made cheaper and with nowhere near the same build quality. However, I did get a 4-port multi-tap adapter for the PlayStation 2 from MadCatz that was totally functional. The 4 controllers I got to play on it weren't. Fate. Cruel, cruel fate. The PlayStation 2 ended up becoming one of the most successful consoles ever, and when they had the attention of the most gamers out there, this is what they were serving them. They thought they were making a lot of sales, but what they were actually doing was creating a ton of enemies who would never forget. And it wasn't just gamepads they pumped out for the PS2. When the dancing rhythm game craze hit North America, you better believe they were all over that market as well, with dance pads like this. This one smells bad. Now, I've played Konami's Dance Dance Revolution series in arcades. And when they transitioned this stuff home, Konami made their own line of official dance pads. You've got pressure-sensitive regions that represent button inputs, combined with a long cord to play further from your console, rubberized underside to prevent it slipping around on the floor it's laying on, and a moisture-repellent plastic top that can be easily wiped for cleanliness. This came out in the early 2000s. Despite this piece of hardware being decades old now, this dance pad is immaculate. Absolutely perfect. This helped the home release of the DDR series become a hit. So, of course, MadCatz tried to breakdance their way in. They undercut Konami's $49.99 dance pad with their own beat pad for the PlayStation 2 at $19.99. That's a savings of $30. So what does that get you? A far worse dance pad. Comparing these side by side, all the imperfections come slipping out. It's missing that rubberized underside like the first party device, meaning it can slide under you when using it. The cord to connect to your console? Way shorter. The top side isn't made of a moisture-resistant plastic. In fact, it seems to absorb moisture, which is freaking disgusting. When I attempted to clean it, it soaked up liquids like a sponge. This thing probably retained the foot sweat of all those who danced before me.
Oddity, your dance pads doubles as a PMAT for your awesome... Our Dance Dance Revolution dance pads doubles as a PMAT for all you awesome Mad Catz out there.
I touched it. And in true MadCatz fashion, it isn't as responsive to your dance steps. Glaringly terrible in comparison to the official dance pad. Maybe all that gunked up foot sweat damaged the components inside. I actually paid more for the MadCatz pad than I did for the very good condition Konami pad. I feel like I got ripped off. No, I don't feel like it. I know I got ripped off. I got ripped off buying dance pads. I don't even play DDR that well, and yet I have 2 of these things. Speaking of things I overpaid for, check out this, the MadCatz handheld racing wheel controller. A big, clunky, awkward to hold design that is totally lifted straight from an RC car remote. A few years ago, I had reviewed this oddity because the thing just perplexed me so much. They tried to sell it by putting a quote from professional racing superstar Mario Andretti on the box.
The #1 handheld racing wheel for the PlayStation.
Sounds to me like Mr. Andretti never tried out the competitor's products, like these, Namco's Niji-Con and Jog-Con. Both designs are much smaller, easier to hold, and far more sophisticated. They're both so much more fun to use and play games with, simulating the function of a steering wheel far more accurately and comfortably than what MadCatz created. But the cunning cat people were not about to give up on steering wheels. For the next device, I'm gonna switch it up a bit. Up to this point, I've been evaluating old used controllers, heavily played and possibly damaged by other users, but not this one. We're going to unbox a premium MadCatz product, brand new, still wrapped in its original plastic, the MadCatz Universal MC2 steering wheel. The abbreviation MC means MadCatz, so that means the full title of this thing is the MadCatz Universal MadCatz 2 steering wheel. That's a Really stupid name. Unlike the Nintendo 64 wheel we played with earlier, this is designed to work across multiple consoles: PlayStation 1, GameCube, Xbox, and most importantly to me right now, PlayStation 2. If we're going to be testing this thing out, I can only think of one simulation racing game worth the attempt: Gran Turismo 4. You can use this both on a tabletop or in your lap. They even have these grooves under the steering wheel with some pop-out leg holders. Unfortunately, while I was playing this way, I found that the wheel would shake around anytime I tried to position my feet to operate the pedals. It's very restrictive, and honestly, I'm not a fan. Tabletop mode it is. Well, looky here. It's got a working gauge displaying how much pressure you're pushing on the pedals, which is a nice touch, I guess. But I really don't know how that would be useful for any game you'd play. I'd be looking for my vehicle speed, which isn't there. I know how much pressure I'm applying. I'm the one applying it. Besides, I really wouldn't be looking down at that while I'm busy focusing on steering my car properly. Speaking of steering, where the heck is it? I can barely manage to keep any vehicle on the road. Driving in a straight line? Next to impossible. Tight turns, wide turns, it doesn't matter. Everything felt so incredibly unresponsive. I checked the manual to see what was up, and it stated that there was some calibration feature that needed to be set. Funny, the Nintendo 64 wheel didn't need this. It just worked when I plugged it in. I mean, you know, when the console registered the wheel as connected. Anyway, I fiddled around with the settings, adjusted them every possible way I could. No dice. Nothing I did made this thing work properly. To verify it was the wheel and not the game, or perhaps my own terrible skills, I drove a race with an official PlayStation 2 controller, and it worked fine. Made turns and everything. So here we are, a brand new in-box MadCatz controller, untouched by human hands, swaddled in an unbroken seal, and it doesn't work properly. Now maybe this controller has degraded in all this time not being used. Components failed, or maybe there was some kind of manufacturing problem, or heck, this could have been damaged over the years from someone rightfully playing kickball with the box. So I checked in with reviews written 2 decades ago, back when this hunk of crap was first released. Guess what? Both a reviewer at CNET and another at GameSpot both addressed the same concerns I did, as if we were kindred spirits, separated through time, bound together by a stunningly awful steering wheel at different points in history. And I think it's worth restating that this wheel wasn't only for PlayStation. This one product also has connectors for GameCube and Xbox. They not only cut costs on build quality, but cut out focusing on making their device work well with one specific console at a time. In their brazen attempt to be the master of all, they became the master of none. In-box, out-of-box, back on release day, or now, this has always been a terrible product. How is this company this freaking awful at making video game hardware? How? Failure after failure thrown on the pile. You think this dissuades me? That I won't go on? You're wrong. It's fuel for the fire. We're gonna keep tracking down this wild feline in all its forms, on all its platforms. As part of the Great Hunt, we ordered a bunch of MadCatz controllers off eBay. Everything arrived in pretty perfect condition, or at least the condition they were in when the seller last had them, besides one controller. A MadCatz translucent blue original Xbox Gamepad. Unfortunately, I couldn't test this one since it arrived damaged from the shipping process. The left thumbstick split in 2. This was packaged pretty safely, so I was a little confused about how this actually happened. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the thumbsticks were cheap 100% hard plastic all the way through, unlike real Xbox controllers that feature a sorta soft rubber-like texture on the thumbsticks for a better grip. For my money, I think that stuff might make it less brittle and harder to split. Would the controller have survived shipping if it had higher quality thumbsticks? Who knows? All I can say is that I won't be attempting to buy another one of these controllers again. So, we move on to the Dreamcast. This is the MadCatz Dreampad. You might notice that it has 6 face buttons to the right, 2 more than what you'd find on a typical Dreamcast controller. These buttons can be programmed in multiple ways, but the most useful in my opinion, replicating the left and right triggers as face buttons. Great for games like Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. The placement of the triggers on a regular Dreamcast controller plus their analog nature makes executing the perfect combo in many fighting games tedious, if not near impossible. So having 6 buttons right here at the front, it's a fighting gamer's obvious choice. But of course, MadCatz had to cheap out somehow. The first thing I tried to do was insert a VMU into the controller expansion slot. The slot was far too small for it. It was a struggle to insert, and when it did manage to get in there, the buttons of the VMU smacked against the top of the controller. I actually use this VMU all the time, so I didn't bother setting it into the controller completely. The chance of damaging one of these things? Not worth it. So instead, I used a memory card from another third-party company, Performance. This fits fine in my stock Dreamcast controller, but on the MadCatz DreamPad, it struggled to fit in and got jammed inside. It took a lot of force to remove this afterwards. And for anyone saying this wasn't fair, that you can't judge a third-party device using another third party's accessory, yes, fine, that could be true. So someone better explain to me why I also struggled getting the MadCatz jump pack into and out of MadCatz's own gamepad. What is the deal with this? You made both of these things. How did you screw that up? So, once I got past all of that, I played Street Fighter. Straight up, the D-pad is squishy and in a shield style which you wouldn't find on an official Dreamcast gamepad. Gotta be honest, folks, I don't like this, and I could not replicate moves easily in-game. The face buttons, though, were so close to being good, with the triggers on the back cloned with these 2 extra buttons on the front, but it's a real shame that the A button fails to register. You've got to be focused and push it in just the right way to make it work every single time. And when you're playing a heated match of any fighting game, the chance of a failed input is potentially game-breaking. So you'll just be asking yourself, do I suck at the fight? Or is it this controller? But if you want a sure win against a human opponent, throw them this thing and you'll be kicking circles around them in no time. But we're not done with the Dreamcast yet. We've got a super special device that I've been dying to dig into. The Dreamcast had a few very good PC ports of some well-regarded first-person shooters, playable with a stock Dreamcast controller or a Dreamcast mouse and keyboard, getting as close to the PC controls as possible. But MadCatz, well, they had the idea to blend both of these control schemes together all at once. The Panther DC, a trackball-style controller with a flight stick strapped to it. Aim with the trackball like a mouse, move your character with the analog joystick like a gamepad. A perfect balance of the two worlds. Only, it's not, because it's mostly useless for its intended purpose. Very few games take full advantage of all of its features. So while you can play a bunch of Dreamcast games with Panther, you're not gonna have a great time. The layout will always feel bad since the majority of games on the platform were never designed around this gangly thing. Vigil on the 8-second offense, for example, kinda not fun to play. And likewise, the Panther fails to take advantage of important features of the Dreamcast. It only has one expansion slot, so you need to choose between using the jump pack or the VMU. And if you're playing a game that uses the VMU screen, you're out of luck. The slot is all the way at the back of this thing, so you will not be able to see it.
You might think I'm irritating, but I'm nothing compared to our controllers.
You can play plenty of titles of the Panther DC, but to use all of its functions properly, you need games that can support Panther mode. The manual-less games like Quake 3 and Kiss Psycho Circus that work. I also found that Unreal Tournament made use of it as well, but it's not mentioned in the manual. Funny enough, the manual does mention that Half-Life could use the Panther's features, a game that never officially came out on the Dreamcast, because the console was discontinued before the game could come out. Looks like MadCatz jumped the gun on writing that one down. I popped in a game, gave it a shot, and couldn't aim properly at all. Not all the directions were registering input. Awesome. I figured this was a controller problem. I popped out the trackball and inspected the ball pit. Clean as a whistle. But I decided to give everything a wipe down anyway, hooked it all back up, and bam! It kinda, sorta worked a little better, maybe. Look, I want to give this thing the benefit of the doubt, but even when cleaned, it still seemed off. And after just a brief few minutes of play and returning to it later on for another session, the ball got back to acting up. Nothing internally looks damaged or in bad condition. This thing just seems to be off no matter what I do. It's a controller you need to constantly maintain and clean, just like an old-style ball mouse. Something I'd assume console gamers of the time were probably not expecting. With a cleaned and ready-to-go ball, I expected to have a far better time. But that didn't happen. Quake 3 needed the controls to be tweaked in the options menu. The stock layout when you boot up the game is impossible to use. Nothing makes sense. There seemed to be one option, controller setting number 4, that kinda worked the best, but it isn't listed as a Panther option, despite the Panther manual suggesting it would be. This was a nightmare. Just freaking awful. Aiming with the ball was so imprecise that I could barely land any hits. It almost felt broken. Just look at this. How am I supposed to take out anyone with aiming this borked? Anytime I shifted the ball around, it felt like it stuttered and refused to move into the directions I needed it to go. I died in the first training level. The training level of Quake 3, a game that on PC I could clear in seconds without getting fragged once.
One frag left.
I switched to Unreal Tournament, which has a Panther setting in the menu, so I had hoped that the gameplay with the Panther would be a lot better. But again, the trackball wasn't great. It has a tendency to aim up or down when swiping left or right. Fortunately, Unreal Tournament has a very strong auto-aim assist, making it a far more playable experience. It was easily better than Quake 3, but not by much. Across every game, aiming just never felt good, like it was always moving slightly in a direction you didn't want to. And folks, I've played plenty of trackball games, so no, it's not me. The button layout is criminal. There are 3 buttons at the top of the trackball, but you'll be too busy swiping the trackball around to hit them. It's also got a dual trigger system you operate with one thumb with that same hand. Even if you keep your hand still, which you will not, you can only ever use one trigger at a time. That's a step down from every major controller with shoulder buttons since the Super Nintendo. The Panther is worse than a keyboard and mouse and worse than a Dreamcast controller. Don't believe me? Well, I replayed these exact same games on the same stages with a stock controller. I didn't die once in either game, and had a way easier time actually aiming and moving around. Sega made the Dreamcast gamepad without 2 analog sticks. A bad move, some might say, but the game devs made use of what was there in a way that still felt decent to use. Aiming and movement on every game worked better than the Panther. If you happen to play against anyone who had an original Dreamcast controller, maybe a Dreamcast mouse or keyboard, well, they will always knock you out if you're running with the Panther. There is no real advantage. You play with one of these things, it's the easiest way to lose. All of these products, these terrible, terrible controllers, got into the hands of hundreds of thousands of gamers, and they caught on fast that this mark was not to be trusted. Now, you might think, why didn't Nintendo, Sony, or Sega step in? Don't they need a license to make these things? You know, pay these companies for the right to sell gear to their consumers? Well, no. If they reverse engineered the first-party controller design and didn't use any of the company's logos on the package, they could completely bypass any licensing shenanigans, and for the most part, that's precisely what MadCatz did. Not only were they making cheap controllers, they were produced in a way that didn't replicate the first-party designs that were typically made to last a long time. I want to make it clear though, MadCatz wasn't alone in the hate for third-party controllers. There was also Interact and Hipgear, Dream Gear, Nyko, and so very many others that I can't even begin to name them all. But MadCatz was top dog. Everyone just thought MadCatz was the brand. They became the Kleenex or Q-tip of controllers, the brand name that became a catch-all for the whole concept. If gamers were sour on third-party, MadCatz was the one giving that off flavor. And you know what a kind of funny side effect of this was? You know what people don't hold on to and preserve for 20 plus years? Garbage Mad Catz controllers. And guess what I needed to track down to make this video?
Garbage Mad Catz controllers.
Whether because they legitimately broke or the owner thought, who the heck would want this? A lot of these devices have ended up right in the trash can over the years. And this self-destructing legacy made it seriously challenging to find anything Mad Catz. People are far more likely to give Mad Catz controllers away for nothing. I literally walked into a game store that had a bucket with a sticker that said free on it, filled with tons of rough-looking third-party products that other patrons had just left there, unloved and unwanted. Inside, this Mad Catz GameCube controller. Yes, I guess it's obvious since I'm holding it that I brought home this store's refuse. This is what I have been reduced to. I mean, look at this thing. Of course it wasn't functional.
It's like it's a little wobbly. Kind of just a bit too wobbly.
I also happened to find a social posting of a person nearby who was just giving away a Mad Catz controller for GameCube. Free! Isn't that nice? Also broken. And that GameStop GameCube controller I showed off that was actually Mad Catz, that one I paid real money for. And guess what? It doesn't work either. Put in fresh batteries, try to connect it, and it turns off right away. That's 3 GameCube MicroCON controllers, all totally borked. I think we're gonna need a bigger trash can. Again, I have a slew of original, well-used GameCube controllers, and they all work. It's not the age that's the problem, it's this company. And folks, I tried to find something good. I attempted to locate something still working or in good condition from this era. But do you know what happens when you call up a video game store and ask one simple question? Oh, hi, video game store? Yes. Do you have any Mad Catz products for sale? That's a lot of swearing. They refused to admit that they had any Mad Catz products, insulted that I'd even ask. Many informed me with great gusto that they denied their products whenever someone came in to sell old gear. One of the store owners literally told me since they first opened the store, nobody had ever asked them point blank for Mad Catz anything. I was the first. So why do all these stores hate Mad Catz products? Well, to put it simply, if they sold it, they just have to refund the customer the next day. It's a waste of time and money. So they just avoid them altogether. Plus, me calling around for Mad Catz products, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Nobody else is going out of their way to find this stuff. You've seen how prevalent Mad Catz was, and you've seen how notorious their products were. But some of you may be wondering, how did Mad Catz keep getting away with selling shoddy controllers? And I'm gonna tell you. Basically, they didn't keep getting away with it. Part of what made their business model work during the PS2's generation was the relative simplicity of the controllers they were copying. But once the free-for-all that was the PS2 generation wound down, the party stopped for Mad Catz. The 7th generation introduced far more complicated controllers than the previous gen. The Wii Remote alone, a wonder of innovation from the folks at Nintendo, filled with so many features and abilities. PlayStation 3's controller included motion controls, and the Xbox 360 utilized a wireless protocol that wasn't open source or standard across other devices. What did this mean for Mad Catz? A whopping 3 years after the release of the Wii, they launched their first set of Wii controllers. And in an age dominated by the wireless controller, all of Mad Catz Xbox 360 gamepads were wired. Even if they pulled an engineering marvel and got all their products out day one with the consoles complete with all the features, I don't think they'd have found much success. People kinda remembered their buffoonery from the years before and didn't really want to deal with any of their trash this time around. They were left with very little choice but to start a campaign to pivot their image. And 2008 kinda kicked off this new effort. Alex Veary, who was the global PR and communications manager for Mad Catz, wrote an open letter to Mike Fahey of Kotaku, stating,
"We're not naive to what many gamers seem to think of Mad Catz products. A lot has changed in recent years. No PR bull, no more talk, just play and see for yourself. All I ask is that you give us a chance to prove how much we've grown as a company.
It means the company knew for a fact that they were making terrible products. And now they're saying, well, they aren't doing that anymore. They admitted to the crime. That's a heck of a thing. If we're to believe that quote, at the very least, it appeared that MadCatz was seemingly making an effort to turn it around. So let's have a look at a couple of the controllers they were offering during this period of self-improvement. The MadCatz Xbox 360 MicroCON. Of course, the moment I plugged it in to test its functions, it revealed its hidden demons. The left thumbstick? It was possessed. You don't even have to touch it. Leave the controller alone on a desk and it registers tons of jittery movement all over. MadCatz was also offering an Xbox 360 controller called the Arcade GameStick at this time. This was specifically aimed at people playing retro games on their 360. You won't be playing Halo 3 with this. This design and all of its button placement makes it virtually unusable for any modern game design for the platform. I noticed it has a spinner, which I thought was kinda cool, so I loaded up Atari's Breakout. Immediately, MadCatz failed again. The game was completely unplayable. The input was stuttery and unresponsive. Upon closer inspection, I discovered that the spinner wasn't actually a real analog spinner. It was simply a D-pad in disguise. When you spin it, it's just tapping the directional pad left or right inconsistently. I'd go so far as to call this a scam product for how badly they made this. By the way, both of these controllers officially licensed by Xbox. This is the quality they were delivering on licensed merchandise. Clearly, MadCatz wasn't able to make quality controllers themselves, so they bought one company that could, Saitek, known for their flight stick controllers. They made good gear. I've used multiple controllers of theirs over the years, and they are built to last. See, MadCatz didn't want you thinking you were buying a MadCatz controller, now you were buying a Saitek controller. But MadCatz would profit nonetheless. MadCatz also became a game publisher for the Xbox 360 and published a very specific game to bundle with their new Saitek hardware. This is Damage Incorporated Pacific Squadron World War II. The game box proudly emblazoned with the unnerving MadCatz logo, but the special controller that could be bundled with this game, the Saitek Aviator for the Xbox 360 and PC. This controller is close to 15 years old at the time of recording, and clearly, it was used. Yet aside from some audible plastic creaking, this controller felt just as if it was new. Perfect button feel, no stick drifting, it all worked extremely well. As for the game itself, it's a pretty by-the-numbers World War II style flight sim. Got some extra bits here or there, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. Although seeing an animated MadCatz logo appear before the game starts, yeah, that's pretty extraordinary. The flight stick really enhances the game. I was picking off targets incredibly far away with razor-thin precision. It's a very different experience from just playing a flight game with a regular controller. But what's important about this? It's proof that older controllers from this vintage can still work fine, as long as their original design was done with some level of care to quality. Just because many of the MadCatz products we've seen are older and used, does not excuse them. Take it from a guy who's got a whole video series about bad gaming hardware. Getting this many unfunctional controllers in a row isn't chance. It's MadCatz. The 2010s was the decade of bad decisions for MadCatz. They made high investments in risky ventures that likely hurt them bad financially, like this Android-based microconsole, the MadCatz M.O.J.O. The M.O.J.O launched in December 2013, and I can tell you from experience, no one cared. Lots of companies are making variations of these, and nothing MadCatz did really stood out against the competition. So what did they do to try and prop up sales, other than slashing the price by $50? Believe it or not, they actually teamed up with another failing tiny gaming box. In 2014, when Ouya was struggling to sell their little game console to people, they launched their Ouya Everywhere initiative. The idea was to drop their Ouya game store on other companies' Android devices. Now that Ouya Funk could stink up another product they didn't make, MadCatz leapt at the opportunity. I have no idea what they were thinking. I mean, the Ouya was $99 compared to M.O.J.O's $199. Why did they think anyone would spend twice the price on their box to access the Ouya game store? It makes no sense. But when it came to stupidly pricing things, oh, MadCatz was rolling in dumb. Check this out. It's called the Lynx 9. And it's a portable, transforming controller for Android devices and PC. And it retailed for $300 American dollars. 300. That's the same price as the PlayStation 4 Slim the year after. For an Android controller? What? The website boasted that you no longer need a gaming console to get an authentic gaming experience. Well, I hope so, because you could no longer afford one after buying this thing. Cheaper controller options obviously existed, and even if there were gamers out there who wanted to dabble with mobile gaming and were interested in the Lynx 9, were they $300 interested? No, I think not. As ill-conceived as these products were, they were not the worst move MadCatz made in the 2010s. That honor belongs to two words: Rock Band. The rhythm guitar game craze was started in 2005 by Guitar Hero. It was profitable for many, but one company missed the boat on sharing its success from the very start. According to what MadCatz president and CEO Darren Richardson told Kotaku's Brian Crescenti in 2010, MadCatz was supposed to be involved with the original Guitar Hero in 2005.
Guitar Hero was a game that we were actually involved with early on and pulled out because of a lawsuit with Konami. We were doing the Xbox SKU, and that's why there was only a PlayStation 2 launch.
This also implies that the original Guitar Hero was supposed to be on Xbox, either instead of or as well as PS2, which is further validated with this quote from Xbox's Phil Spencer. In 2015 on IGN, Spencer revealed that Xbox had been offered either Guitar Hero or at least the game that became Guitar Hero.
I've told the story a few times about passing on the original Guitar Hero.
Great.
So obviously that's a decision I regret, given what that turned into.
But that MadCatz CEO quote, where he says they backed out of Guitar Hero because of a lawsuit with Konami? In July 2005, MadCatz was sued by them for their publishing of a dance rhythm game called MC Groove's Dance Craze for GameCube. Konami, being the Dance Dance Revolution company, they felt MC Grooves was infringing on their held patents. This is probably the lawsuit he's talking about. A lawsuit, by the way, in which Red Octane, publisher of Guitar Hero, was also a defendant. Small world, huh? There is a very real chance that MadCatz was worried that they'd have another lawsuit on their hands if they made these guitar controllers, because Konami already had a game called Guitar Freaks that looked almost identical in concept. But for whatever their reason, MadCatz paid the tidy sum of $300,000 to back out of their Guitar Hero deal. You heard me. MadCatz not only walked away from a deal that would have made them tons of sales, but they also paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege. That's freaking crazy. It might well be one of the biggest misses of all time in the video game industry. So when Rock Band comes around, they jumped in immediately. Not gonna be left behind a second time. No siree. They got in when it was hot, and MadCatz sales went through the roof selling plastic musical instruments. Not as much as they could have made at the start, but hey, anything was better than nothing.
Hey kid, you want a plastic guitar controller?
Unfortunately, 2 years in, no one was buying those expensive games and guitar bundles anymore. So in 2010, Harmonix publisher MTV Games officially dropped plastic peripheral support for the series. Who did they get to replace them? MadCatz! They were probably so stoked. I guarantee they thought now that they were the top rock band kitten, the money was just gonna come pouring in.
Plastic plastic guitar controllers for everybody.
This was a pretty big mistake. Had they been paying attention, they'd have known existing players already had controllers and not enough new players were buying into the hardware. In October 2010, we got the brand new Rock Band 3, with MadCatz at the helm of the controller production, which actually was reduced for this title since they didn't bundle the game with guitars anymore. But you could get a game bundle with the newly added Rock Band keyboard. Yup, they included a bunch of brand new gameplay features to try and reinvigorate the brand. This here keyboard, or keytar I guess, was one of them.
Hey kid, you want a plastic keyboard you hold like a guitar?
I don't know how successful Rock Band 3 was for MadCatz' bottom line, but as a whole, the game bombed. Sales were on a steady downward trend. The general gaming public was feeling burnt out with the whole rhythm genre. After re-releasing the game a year later with new guitar bundles, which sold worse than the first release, Harmonix put Rock Band to bed. It looked like the fast-paced ride of the plastic guitar trend officially came to a grinding halt. And where did this leave MadCatz? Well, not in a good position. Failed products and investments with diminishing returns were starting to catch up with the company. Time passed, and the game industry evolved.
Hey kid, yeah you, don't run away. Buy my plastic guitar controllers. MadCatz needs to eat.
To say they were struggling would have been an understatement. It was at this time that a newly independent game developer was looking to resurrect a dead franchise. In a move that could only be described as pure extreme desperation, at the beginning of 2015, it was announced that Harmonix was bringing Rock Band back, and they invited their old pals MadCatz along for the trip. However, MadCatz wouldn't just be making the peripherals. This time around, they were going deep, co-publishing the game along with Harmonix. They invested big. They were putting everything into this, betting it all on the new Rock Band, a comeback tour for the ages. I don't want to criticize MadCatz' decision in taking part in this, but I just have to. They were huffing catnip if they thought this was a good idea. Yes, they attempted to make the game more appealing by enabling old instruments from the past to work with a special adapter. However, it had been 5 long years since the last entry. The consoles the last game launched on had been replaced. No one thought the series was coming back, so when gamers either just wanted more space in their living room, or they literally were trading in their older consoles for a new Xbox One or PlayStation 4, they weren't keeping these clunky musical instruments. These things take up a lot of space. Controllers for both Rock Band and Guitar Hero flooded the secondhand gaming market, and stores stopped taking them. They wouldn't sell, and they'd rob valuable shelf space from things that would. I actually know some video game store owners, and you know what they told people who tried to sell them their old instruments at this time? Get lost! Throw them in the trash! That's right, they were valueless and obsolete. Then, Rock Band 4 comes around, and they expect these same burnt people to dish out hundreds to reinvest in the series? Whoa, that's a hard sell. And for argument's sake, let's say someone shoved their old instruments in a closet and forgot about them for half a decade. For this to be helpful, they need to have stayed in the same console family. So if they had Rock Band controllers on PlayStation 3, they'd only work on the PS4 and not Xbox One. But boy, the Xbox One sales, especially by 2015 when this game came out, were pitifully low. The pool of Xbox One gamers, who also had old 360 instruments, probably insanely tiny. A huge majority of them moved over to the PS4 after the Xbox 360, so even if they had prior controllers, they couldn't get them to work on their current system. And on top of that, an entire platform was cut out from Rock Band 4. Nintendo Wii U didn't get a taste of this one. Wii Rock Band controllers had no option to be used at all. As for this keytar piano thing, it was useless across each platform. They removed it from the next installment of the franchise. Some folks who liked this thing might not have been so happy about that. I really don't think they thought this through. The player base was gone. The novelty wore off. But despite all these huge glaring red flags, the game came out in October 2015, and as anyone could have predicted at the time, besides MadCatz I suppose, it flopped hard. And then, less than 2 years later, MadCatz filed for bankruptcy. The big rock band 4-bet failed. A handful of executives resigned. They had massive staff layoffs, their stock price plummeted, and it got so bad that the only option was liquidation. And there it is. The entire legacy of MadCatz ended on one epically bad investment that seemed to be made in an effort to right the wrong they committed so many years earlier. The idea of third-party controllers, though, lives on pretty strong today. More companies than ever before are producing not only controllers for PC and modern consoles, but also replacement components and controllers for retro systems. The increase of more users in the game space has generated a stability for third-party that simply did not exist during MadCatz's rise during the 2000s. Companies like Retro Fighters regularly improve upon designs from the past or create all new ones, offering features like modern wireless connectivity methods or enhanced features that go well beyond original hardware. This stuff is so good that I'd use it over original controllers. They are extremely well made, and from what I've experienced at least, are likely to last a good long while. And they're not alone. 8-Bit Do has also had an impact in the scene. Hori is still going strong, making lots of great gear too. Many others are taking part in a revitalization of what it means to be a third-party manufacturer. One thing all these companies have in common is a central focus: quality, an aspect that MadCatz didn't share. And although the MadCatz of these controllers is long gone, the story of MadCatz didn't actually end with bankruptcy. In January 2018, CNET reported that a holding company composed of people who had worked for the company's Chinese factories had bought up the MadCatz assets and were resurrecting the brand. And they're still around, focusing on PC gaming peripherals. I don't have any experience with them, but I'm cool. I think I got my MadCatz fill with this video. Maybe this new MadCatz will turn the brand around and make something out of it.
You gotta go naked.
Or maybe they won't. But for me, they'll never be the real horror show of the original company. The MadCatz of old is a relic. Finding anything of them to this day is as rare as finding lost treasure. But it's not treasure. It's the stuff nobody wanted at the time and nobody needs now. An entire legacy burned up into ashes. For a company that focused on quantity and cheapness, sometimes legacies like that are best forgotten. You may find yourself in a retro video game store, maybe at a garage sale, a flea market, a pawn shop, or a thrift store, and you may find this ancient evil laying in wait for an unknowing gamer. But don't be fooled into thinking you found a deal. Learn from what I've shown you. Don't let this diabolical brand interact with your systems or the ones you love. Do as all gamers should do. Fear the MadCatz.